in low and middle income countries. Millions more people in India, China, Indonesia, Brazil, Africa, and other places will have a need to buy air conditioning units.
And this represents probably one of the largest single end-use risks to our climate.
The worst effects on health and comfort and well-being will be the places that get hottest and most humid. Poor people are the most at risk, not just of discomfort, but of illness and death.
If we want to offset the negative impact associated with that increase in demand, we need to develop a technology that has 5 times less climate impact. The math is pretty simple.
Our problems are exponential, but our solutions have tended to be linear. Prizes and challenges help make the impossible possible.
We believe this problem is best addressed by a prize because we have a very consolidated industry. It's been very focused the last decades on production scale, and innovation is in the shadows, and that's what we're trying to shine a spotlight on.
There are millions of bright minds that I believe will bring about a solution to our cooling challenge.
This Global Cooling Prize provides an opportunity to engineering students, innovators, startups, existing air conditioning manufacturers to develop a solution for people across the globe.
What we've done is define the target, and we're asking the world's innovators, whoever you are, to hit that target. Have 5 times less climate impact from air conditioning, and you will win.
But it requires companies and governments to make advanced market commitments to guarantee demand for these more efficient air conditioners, regulatory bodies to raise minimum energy performance standards so we see the technology floor rise in addition to the technology ceiling.
It is through the combination of the cooling prize and the commitments of government to be able to scale up the technologies that allow for investment to happen, that give us new hope.
What I hope the cooling prize will bring is that comfort for everybody around the world at an electricity burden that is much more manageable.
With this innovation, everyone will be able to afford cooling without warming the planet.
I'm inviting entrepreneurs and companies from around the world to take up the challenge. Let the Global Cooling Prize begin. Cheers and good luck.
We're expecting the minister in any moment now. Thank you for your patience with us. We will now commence the inaugural session of the Global Cooling Innovation Summit. It is my great honor to invite Dr. Harshvardhan, the Honorable Union Minister of Science and Technology, Earth Sciences, Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, to the Global Cooling Innovation Summit. Sir. Sir, please welcome. Dr. Harshvardhan has a long and distinguished record of public service. His focus at the Ministry of Science and Technology has been to motivate the country's scientists to come up with innovative technology solutions to people's problems. He is committed to setting up a roadmap for building a robust R&D infrastructure and promoting synergies between industry and scientific research institutions. He's also been instrumental in planting the seeds of a mass movement to make the protection and preservation of the environment the concern and goal of every citizen. Dr. Vardhan has led the Indian delegation in all mission innovation ministerials where he has made bold and impactful announcements and committed to dedicating resources for promoting R&D and innovation in clean energy. Sir, it is truly an honor to have you with us today. Please welcome.
Welcome. I would also like to welcome Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and Chairperson, Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. Professor Raghavan is a Fellow of the Indian Science Academies, the Royal Society, the Academy of Medical Sciences UK, and a Foreign Associate of the US National Academy of Sciences. He was awarded the Padma Shri by the Government of India in 2013. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today, sir. Welcome. It is our pleasure to also have here with us today Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has introduced several new flagship programs and missions in the portfolio of DST, including clean energy, where the investment in R&D has tripled. Professor Sharma has served on the governing boards of councils of over 15 prominent scientific institutions in India and has a broad international experience as a research faculty and as a member of the European Research Commission. Welcome, sir.
It is my privilege to welcome Dr. Renu Swarup, Secretary of Department of Biotechnology in the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, to the summit today. She holds the position of Chairperson Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, a public sector company incorporated by the Government of India to nurture and promote innovation and research in the biotech enterprise with a special focus on startups and SMEs. Ma'am, a very warm welcome to you.
It is our pleasure to welcome Professor John Loughead, Chief Scientific Advisor, Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Government of UK. Professor Loughead is also the Vice Chair of the Steering Committee of Mission Innovation. Prior to this, he was Chief Scientific Advisor at the Department of Energy and Climate Change in the Government of UK. Professor Loughead has extensive international experience in both industry and academia. Sir, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today.
We would also like to welcome Shri Anil Kumar Jain, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. He is a member of the Indian Administrative Service of the Government of India and is presently leading issues related to environmental clearances, hazardous substances, wetlands, and Montreal Protocol, among other things. Shri Anil Kumar Jain has over 3 decades of administrative experience in the field and policy formulation levels, and has held senior positions in the federal and state governments in multiple ministries. Sir, welcome.
It is my pleasure to invite Shri Abhay Bakre, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Government of India. Under Mr. Bakre's leadership, BEE is carrying forth its flagship programs such as PAT, Scheme for Industry Sector, and adoption of ECBC 2017 at the state level. Welcome, sir.
Before we begin with the ceremony, we would like to observe a 1-minute silence for Shri Anand Kumar, Union Minister for Chemical and Fertilizers and Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you, everyone. We would now like to invite Mr. Ian Camber to deliver the welcome remarks. Mr. Camber.
Thank you, and good morning again. So it's my distinct privilege to welcome you to this inaugural session of the Global Cooling Innovation Summit. At RMI, we're very dedicated to research and the support of market transformation efforts that can accelerate a transition to a clean energy future. This is what we do, and it's all that we do. And in doing so, it puts us in a position to recognize and deeply appreciate the leadership of the government of India and the leaders with me here on this dais for stepping forward to address the challenge of cooling, a challenge that is not readily visible looking only in the rearview mirror. To see the challenge takes foresight, and to act on it takes courage, which I wanted to take the time to acknowledge and provide our sincere gratitude. We are honored to be able to work with the government of India and Mission Innovation on finding the solutions that India and the world badly needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. We would now like to begin the proceedings by inviting Dr. Sanjay Bajpai, Head Technology Mission, Energy and Water, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, to the stage. Dr. Bajpai specializes in the area of management of technology development, demonstration, and commercialization programs. He currently leads mission innovation programs on energy, water, and air technologies within Government of India. He also represents the country in several international fora, including Mission Innovation. So.
Thank you. On behalf of Department of Science and Technology, it's my pleasure to welcome Honorable Union Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, Honorable Principal Scientific Advisor, Dr. Vijay Raghavan, Secretary DST, Secretary DBT, Professor John Lockheed, Mr. Anil Jain, Mr. Abhay Bhakre, and distinguished delegates. This summit is quite unique in its nature, that in the way that it's a mix of the innovators, industries, R&D, and all of us have come together to find a solution to a global challenge. In fact, the challenge which is proposed to be launched, that's also a very innovative instrument, as we will come to know during the course of discussions. And this instrument aims to challenge the status quo and usher in disruptive breakthrough innovations. So I welcome you all to this summit and look forward to your cooperation and collaboration in this unique endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bajpai. May I request the Honorable Minister to lead the dignitaries to the lighting of the lamp ceremony. This practice officially signifies the auspicious start of the Global Cooling Innovation Summit. Thank you very much. We are honored to have here today with us Professor John Lophet, Chief Scientific Advisor, Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Government of UK. Professor Lophet is also the Vice Chair of the Steering Committee of Mission Innovation. May I request Professor Lophet to share some insights on Mission Innovation's support of this initiative and the importance of innovation that drive the clean energy revolution.
Thank you very much. Minister, distinguished guests and delegates, it is, as always, an enormous pleasure to be able to return to India, this vibrant, exciting, entrepreneurial country that is yet again through this initiative showing its progress and leadership on the world stage. Mission Innovation was an initiative in which India was a core initiator 3 years ago when it was announced at the Paris Climate Conference. And the goal of Mission Innovation, with the support now of 23 countries plus the European Commission, was to commit those countries to double their expenditure on clean energy R&D with a view of making dramatic changes to the technology available to the world to use. And the importance of that is not simply the climate consequences, it is the importance of the value of energy to the social well-being of all of our countries. If you look at the progress since 1950, the second half of the 20th century, it was noted by a significant increase in the availability of usable energy to, firstly, the developed countries and then more developing countries. The consequences of that are not wholly understood, but amongst them are, even in the Western developed world, one of the consequences was a 50% increase in life expectancy amongst the population as a whole. In China, the increase was even greater. So what we see here is not simply a convenience. This is one of the great enablers of modern life. And as we look at Mission Innovation and what it does, it's not simply about collaboration between researchers, although that is a key part of what it does. Mission Innovation was the adoption of a common set of goals and countries coming together to articulate the problem and the challenges. And that is why I am so delighted to welcome this initiative by the Government of India, which demonstrates the intent of Mission Innovation perfectly. Together with partners in the Innovation Challenge on global cooling and heating, India has been able to do the work that has articulated precisely what the challenge is and what is needed, but not how it is needed. It has, however, set a clear target and need for the world's innovation community. And I think that the support of this through the prize is a truly admirable approach that we in Mission Innovation welcome. Since its inception, Mission Innovation has been supported in full heart by India through the contribution of those on its secretariat, through the contribution of its research and innovation community. And I'm sure that some of the great ideas that will be triggered by this prize we shall see will be of Indian origin. And I would like to add to the comments earlier about the solutions that Paul made, which is we should not allow our innovators to be constrained by the conventional approach. It doesn't have to be electrons that are the source of energy for the future cooling systems. It doesn't have to be the vibration of molecules. It doesn't have to be molecular change. It doesn't have to be solid state physics. But these are all things that might come into the equation. So I would like to, on behalf of Mission Innovation, exhort the innovation community to let loose their imaginations with the support of this prize challenge to rethink how we can provide this absolutely critical resource that we have heard the demand for which will increase by a factor of 5 by the year 2050, and I expect that it may increase even more than that. And when we think this sounds like a very difficult challenge, I'd like to close by asking you just to reflect back on what the world was like 30 years ago. At that point, we didn't have mobile phones. We hadn't invented the concept of a smartphone. And had we described those at that time, they would have seemed like science fiction. So what we should remember is that as we go forward, when we think of what we will do in the next 5 years, we very often overestimate our capabilities to make progress. But when we look forward 20 years, we almost always underestimate our ability to provide truly world-changing innovations. And I'm sure this prize will go a long way towards encouraging that in this area. So I wish the potential innovators good luck, and thank again the Government of India for their generous and very inspired support for this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lofford, for your inspiring address. It is my pleasure to welcome on stage Shri Abhay Bhakre, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Government of India, to speak about India's innovations towards an energy-efficient economy. Sir.
Honorable Minister, sir, respected Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Renu Swarup, Professor John, Sri Anil Kumar Jain, Dr. Vajpayee, my partners for the activities and programs of Bureau, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a privilege for me to participate here, and also on behalf of Bureau, we wish to thank DST and other partners, RMI, AEEE, CPET, for launching this cooling prize, which Bureau is eagerly waiting for. Sir, the government enacted the Energy Conservation Act, and the Bureau was set up with a mandate to drive all the policies and programs, including the rules and regulations, to implement energy efficiency. Bureau is also nodal office for the Clean Energy Ministerial, which is being held alongside the Mission Innovation, which is organizing this particular event. So when we talk about the energy efficiency in the cooling sector, we have just collected the data, and the India Cooling Action Plan has presented very interesting features, especially on the cooling sector. Currently, we have only 8% households who are using AC. And when we couple with the commercial buildings, the requirement of AC currently is much less, but the growth potential is extremely high. A rough estimate says the consumption of energy or electricity in cooling sector will increase from somewhere 110 billion units to 390 billion units by 2030. But if we are on a program where energy efficiency is improved for the cooling sector, we will be in a position to save almost 120 billion units from the final figure. In this direction, the Energy Conservation Building Code, which we believe will be a game changer, has been initiated last year by the Bureau, and we expect that all the states will be making it mandatory in coming years to implement ECVC in all commercial buildings. At the same time, we are coming out with Energy Conservation Building Code in the residence sector also. But sir, most important, the achievement what the Bureau and the government has got it about the standards and labeling program. In 2006 and 2007, when the standards labeling or the star labeling program, popularly called as, initiated in the country, most of the manufacturers were not even able to meet the 1 star, the single star minimum requirement. But sir, from 2008 to 2018, our minimum level itself has improved by 40%. And the most significant achievement being that the inverter ACs, which has become mandatory from 1st January 2018, and in the current year, the market share for energy efficient inverter ACs has already crossed 30%, and vendors and manufacturers are quite excited, and the prices are coming down. This gives a great opportunity for us that the air conditioning demand will grow, but at the same time the prices will come down, and there is enough challenge available to come out with more and more energy efficient equipment. At the same time, the centralized air conditioning, that's commonly called as chillers, this program was also launched on the day of Ozone Day on 14th of September this year by Ministry of Power. And now we have requested all the corporates and large consumers to buy 2 or 3 star chiller equipment, which wasn't there for the last 10 years. This requires a great challenge in terms of not only improving the testing protocols, the system as well, but the most important gain will be that the air conditioning load is actually impacting the peak load for the ministry. The total generation capacity, the installed capacity is 344 gigawatt, but most of this peak load is contributed on account of air conditioning. So whatever saving or the reduction in consumption is done, it is actually saving the peak load as well. In that process, the Bureau is also involved in the development of India Cooling Action Plan, which will be a visionary document involving all sectors for cooling, whether it's a building, cold chain, transport, etc. But Bureau is eagerly looking for this particular cooling challenge, and whatever trajectory we are following up to 2030 in terms of energy efficiency, the cooling sector will be the greatest beneficiary for this. And we hope that this challenge, which will deliver us 5x times of room AC or any other kind of technology, will be certainly useful for Ministry of Power, for Bureau, to come out with policies and programs so that we can drastically improve the bottom line of energy efficient air conditioning system in the country. We are also eagerly looking for the vendors and manufacturers who will grab this opportunity and deliver a much better and improved solution for the consumers in India, and that will improve our overall target for the Paris Agreement. I thank once again DST and other partners for inviting me, and I am really glad to join this cooling challenge on behalf of Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights on India's strong commitment to catalyze and support innovations of the future in the air conditioning industry, and for also supporting the Global Cooling Prize. I'd now like to welcome Shri Anil Kumar Jain, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, to speak about the India Cooling Action Plan, the first document of its kind to be released by any government in the world. Sir.
Honorable Minister, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to represent the Ministry of Environment. We have just heard about the India Cooling Action Plan, which we pioneered in this country. It was the farsightedness of the minister last year to have announced that the ministry would pilot this strategy, recognizing that cooling actually holds importance to the ordinary man as well as to the economy widely. And it needs to be supported on many legs. It has multiple implications. It has to straddle across multiple areas: agriculture, horticulture, transport, hospitals, buildings, infrastructure. So the Cooling Action Plan actually was the first initiative recognizing the multifarious implications and to coordinate it all. Let me at the outset mention that in this ministry, we also represent the Montreal Protocol in the country, and we work towards its achievement. And India has been a major contributor to the success which the Montreal Protocol is witnessing. You might have seen in the papers recently a report to the effect that the ozone gap, which had been widening over the Antarctica, is now closing in. That's very happy news. And I might add that India is actually ahead of the timelines in scaling down of the ODS refrigerants and moving towards the non-ODS regime. The cooling action plan actually being housed in this ministry basically came from the fact that the ozone agenda belonged here. But then, as I mentioned, that the requirement of putting everybody together and making sure that the requirement of ODS, non-ODS gases is reduced to the maximum. That is the objective, that's how the ICAP actually began. We've just heard from the DGB, Mr. Bakre, that the growth in air conditioning in India is going to be, huge. In the residential sector, he mentioned that only 8% of the residential space is presently under air conditioning. And this is going to grow. The aggregate cooling demand in the building sector in the next 20 years is expected to grow by almost 4.5 times. Now, that is going to have implications across the economy in many areas. We know of the adverse consequences. We know of the huge energy demand it will create. We know about the peaking load disturbance which it would cause. We also know of the gases that would be required for that kind of cooling. Well, it also has some advantages, and cooling demand can harvest those advantages. Let me just allude to two of them. One of them is India's electricity generation capacity has been growing faster than the demand. So cooling can come actually as a booster for the generators and create demand for that power, which our plant load factors have been falling. So cooling can be a great help towards that. Secondly, as we all know, that the peaking loads of the electricity demand in India actually have dual regime in the afternoon, in the summers particularly, when the temperatures are very high, and also in the evening when people get home. So in the daytime peaking, solar, which is very high on our agenda, as you might have heard, India proposes to go up to 175 gigawatt of capacity in the renewable sector in 2022, out of which 100 gigawatt is in the solar area. So solar is going to be up and generating in the daytime. So in a way, cooling is also an opportunity which we need to look upon as something which can come to the help of the power sector. ICAP, as I mentioned, is aiming at synergy. We spoke about the implications on the demand for gases, which the ministry has to see to it that we move in the direction of non-ODS. After the Kigali Amendment, the energy efficiency is also very close to our heart, and we have just heard about it, that if we were not to build in the energy efficiency into the air conditioning gases, the electricity demand and otherwise the implications on infrastructure would be very high, given the fact that we need to exploit the present capacity, but we can't keep growing the capacity. I'm happy to say that the implementation of the ICAP has already begun. While it is still in a draft stage, we are in the process of examining the comments that we got when we placed it in the public domain. But I'm happy to say that 200,000 AC technicians and mechanics, their training program has already begun. So this is one of the spin-offs of the ICAP. Earlier, we were training about 10,000 to 15,000 technicians every year. As you know, that under the new technology, if the technicians are not efficient, there could be an escape of the ODS refrigerant gases, which contributes to the ozone problem. So the agenda is already at work. Without taking too much time, I just might mention that the cooling prize is a very welcome initiative. But as of now, it is only in the building sector. India's air conditioning requirement, cooling requirement, is, of course, going to balloon in the building sector. And by the projections in the ICAP, they will contribute to thirds of the total cooling into the health sector, the cold chain. So we also need to be innovative in that sector. So I would exhort, Mission Innovation to also look at those sectors, because those sectors may contribute only to 1/3, but at the moment they're very small, and there's going to be a huge growth in that. So instead of growing inefficiently and then trying to retrofit, it's always better to build in efficiency at this stage. So I do look forward to a very vibrant leadership of India in this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views on the India Cooling Action Plan and helping India drive towards a future where everyone can afford cooling without warming the planet. It is my great honor to invite Dr. Renu Swarup, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, to share a few words on research, development, and innovation framework in India. Welcome.
Honorable Minister, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, delegates, entrepreneurs for this Global Cooling Prize. It's always a pleasure to be at one of the Mission Innovation meetings such as this. And it's also very exciting to see that within 3 years, the whole community of Mission Innovation has expanded to now bring in all the stakeholders which were envisaged when this whole Mission Innovation was announced in 2015. The Government of India has always played a very important leadership role. Our Honorable Minister has been leading the ministerial delegations in all the years that we've had the Mission Innovation meetings. And this has been one of our flagship multilateral cooperation programs. Mission Innovation is very unique. It's, I think, one of the largest multilateral platforms which connects the clean energy innovators. It's also important because it looks at the research and development, and it looks at that component of research and development which would feed into the deployment for the stakeholders. You heard our colleagues from the ministries talking about how important it is to feed into their action plans. And I think that is what the whole purpose of Mission Innovation was, that how can you look at research and development innovation activities to take them to a level where they could be deployed by the stakeholders and the users. In India, we have been looking at all the challenges which were put out. And in fact, it's important to mention that when these challenges were developed, and I know that the first meeting that was held, that was in the United Kingdom, we had all the countries participating. There was more than a 2-day detailed brainstorming to identify which could be those innovation challenges which all the 23 countries and the European Union would identify, which would meet the global objectives. With a lot of deliberation, initially 7, and then we've just added on the 8th challenge was identified, with exactly this in mind, that we would, for each one of them, launch mega programs, multilateral programs, which would involve all countries. It's a pleasure to see that for the global cooling today, we have been able to launch this, or we are going to launch this in India, along with the Rocky Mountain Institute, which will then be open for all countries to be able to participate. India looking at these innovations which would be within India, but they would also have solutions for the world. And that's really what Mission Innovation is all about. The Mission Innovation, and I speak on behalf of Department of Biotechnology, which has been entrusted the responsibility of the coordinating department within the Government of India. Within India itself, we have more than 6 or 7 ministries which come together to take the agenda of Mission Innovation forward. So it's a multilateral, multi-ministry program for us within the Government of India, and that's what makes it even more challenging. But I think with the large challenges that we have within Mission Innovation, these challenges seem very simple and not as complex. The India's commitment to Mission Innovation could be seen from the fact that we are partners in each of the challenges which has been identified. India leads some of the challenges. We have a separate Mission Innovation unit which has been set up in India, which helps to drive these programs. In the last meeting, the ministerial meeting which was held in May this year, our Honorable Minister announced there that India is setting up the first international clean energy incubator. This announcement was received very well by the Mission Innovation community, and I would see this Global Innovation Challenge being able to use that opportunity of the International Clean Energy Incubator to its complete and optimal utilization. The International Clean Energy Incubator is a platform which brings in the entrepreneurs and innovators and provides a platform for entrepreneurial exchange between the Mission Innovation countries. Not only exchange of entrepreneurs, but exchange of global best practices of innovation, and more importantly, testing markets in each other's countries. And I think that is what this International Clean Energy Incubator brings to the Mission Innovation. We also would like to see, through these various challenges and today's prize as it's been announced, two other key components of Mission Innovation being taken forward. And one is, of course, the public-private partnership, which we will see very well displayed, we hope, through this global cooling challenge, where we will have the industry, the academia, the startups all coming together to be able to take forward the challenge which has been posed. We would also look at the researcher and scientist mobility between countries. These sort of partnerships will give an opportunity for that objective of the Mission Innovation to also be accomplished as this global cooling challenge moves on. The Mission Innovation has also announced a Champions Award, and that Champions Award is to identify and recognize key champions and researchers who could then become part of the Mission Innovation community, not only for their country, but also for the entire stakeholder group within the Mission Innovation. We hope through the Global Cooling Challenge, we would be able to contribute to the Champions Award and identify researchers, entrepreneurs, and innovators who could become part of this huge community. Lastly, I would once again like to congratulate the whole team which has put together this wonderful innovation challenge. We are confident that we would be able to get a very good response to it, and this team would collectively be able to respond to the challenge which has been put on, and this would be important not only for India, but for the entire globe. I'd like to congratulate the groups within DST and the Rocky Mountain Institute and other team members who are going to implement it. And on behalf of the coordinating group at the Mission Innovation Unit, we would be able to provide complete support as we take it on. Good luck to each one of you for this wonderful challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swaroop, especially for your support for Mission Innovation and the Global Cooling Prize. We are excited to hear about India's commitment to research and development and global cooperation. Next, it is a great honor to welcome our next speaker, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. Welcome, sir.
Honorable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, Professor Vijay Raghavan, my colleagues here, distinguished participants. Well, we are meeting here to launch a cooling grant challenge, which is global, but has relevance to India. Now, we have set the bar very high, which is 5x reduction in the environmental footprint for cooling solutions. It's good actually to set the bar very high and to involve disruptive solutions, because we have been doing incremental work for a long time. Incremental work takes 50 years and it increases the efficiency by 10%. We don't have that kind of time anymore. So clearly we need this to be a global scale challenge. We need to involve a lot of organizations. We need to involve young people, young scientists everywhere, because you would recall, young scientists are especially important, because if an older person says something is possible, she is almost always right. But if an older person says something is impossible, he is likely to be wrong. So basically, let not our conditioning and experience dictate what is possible. So setting the bar is very high, and this would probably require composite solutions. It would require hybrid solutions. It would look at, well, how can we use, for example, the reject heat? How can we combine it with other technologies like phase change by also looking at evaporative cooling and so on? So anyway, this is what the challenge is, and I'm certain that this is going to produce breakthroughs. One of the ways of finding a solution in India is by jugaad, which is by solving problem by hook or by crook, but that's not an optimal solution, and this is not what we recommend in this case. We want solutions which are scalable, which are optimal, and which are going to serve us for a very long time to come. Department of Science and Technology that I represent covers the entire ecosystem of science and technology and innovation. And this is what we need for solutions like this. So we support fundamental science and technology. We also support technology development. We look at translational aspects. We also support innovation and startups and incubators, and going on to the commercialization of technology. So it's an end-to-end chain of support. So I'm sure that the great solutions which would come out of this grand challenge would have the opportunity to develop into something larger, would go to the market. We do that, as we heard, that mission innovation. We want to leverage public-private partnerships. We want to work with the global community, with the international scientists, and we also want to have a good connect with the innovation ecosystem, startups, and so on. So it's a fantastic time to be working on this problem, which is of great interest. And of course, all of us who have assembled here, of course, we have interest in clean energy, we have interest in environment, climate change, and so on. And which is not limited only to this particular grand challenge. In fact, we have two other grand challenges going on right now. One of them is related to electric mobility, the standards for charging. The other one is related to finding more effective solutions for solar cooking. Now remember, this humble solar cooker has been around for many decades. I've been using it for 4 decades, and the basic design has not changed. So here's another grand challenge for all of us sitting here and our friends to redesign this very basic solar cooking equipment to make it more efficient. For example, to have temperature control, to bring in sensors, to bring in artificial intelligence, whatever. Right? So the times. There are programs which are related to advanced ultra supercritical technology for cleaner coal, which means to get more energy out of each ounce of coal that we burn for power. Habitat energy efficiency, and the grand challenge we are looking at is a part of that. Energy storage materials and devices. Clearly, as we get into the era of renewables like solar energy, the energy storage becomes the central piece of puzzle. Power electronics and smart grid programs is a huge program wherein we look at, well, how to manage our grids in a more efficient way. There's a national mission on cleaner fuels like methanol and dimethyl ether. So there are many different solutions that we are looking at for clean transport, which are related to batteries, which are related to electric mobility of all kinds, which are related to cleaner fuels. For example, how do we convert biomass and coal into cleaner fuels like methanol? There are programs, as I said, related to smart grid, off-grid energy materials, hydrogen-related fuels, and energy efficiency in built environments. There are several national energy research centers which have been established. There is a Center on Materials Research Center on Advanced Ultra Supercritical Coal Technologies. There is Center for Combustion Research and Development at IIT Madras and in Bangalore. There is Solar Energy Research Hub in Calcutta, a Solar Thermal Research Center in Chennai. As we know that solar energy is not just photovoltaics, but there are many other efficient ways of using solar energy, especially in Indian context, and we look at all of them. There is the generation, storage, and distribution of solar hydrogen, or basically producing cleaner fuels and chemicals using solar energy. There are several institutions of Department of Science and Technology that are totally dedicated to clean energy and environmental considerations. The International Advanced Research Center for Metallurgy and New Materials in Hyderabad is especially important. They have been looking at energy storage solutions for about 2 decades now and really have everything under control for electric mobility. Indian Association for Cultivation of Science in Calcutta, and then there are several international R&D networks on clean energy supported with Australia, with Finland, with Germany, with Norway, Singapore, South Korea, and UK are especially strong. There are several bilateral clean energy R&D centers which have been established. The Solar Energy Research Institute of India and US at a cost of rupees 500 million, which looks at sustainable photovoltaics, distributed solar thermal and solar energy integration. The Indo-US Center for Building Energy Research, which is looking at life cycle analysis of energy efficiency of buildings in construction, through demolition and its operation, of course. The Indo-US Joint Clean Energy R&D Center on smart grids and smart storage technologies. Clean Energy Center with UK, especially noteworthy, which is looking at integration of intermittent renewables with energy storage in off-grid and smart grid solutions. Well, so point simply is that there is lots happening which is related to renewable energy, which is related to the objectives of mission innovation. In fact, I recall my meeting with the former scientific advisor to President Obama then, and we were looking at, they're saying, look, what would mission innovation do? Mission innovation would basically double the R&D expenditure. We said, well, in the next 5 years, and that was music to my ears because we said, actually, we were thinking about doubling it in 2 years. And so we have already gotten there and surpassed the expectations of mission innovation. The point basically is that R&D now is very strong. R&D is very strong. We are getting into innovation. We need to involve greater participation from the industry, the public-private partnerships, which hopefully would develop through initiatives like the Grant Challenge that we launched today. And then we need to commercialize these, scale them up, and so on. I think we are fully geared to support each step of this process, which is from the deep basic R&D to technology development, to translational efforts, to innovation, taking them to startups, connecting with the industry, connecting with the society, and scaling it up. So I'm very optimistic about the Grant Challenge that we launched today. Not only about that, but all the stuff, all the great stuff which is happening related to clean energy and environment. So I'm sure there are a lot more of this that would happen in the days and months and years to come. Basically, my intent here was to give you a spread of activities which are going on under the banner of Mission Innovation. And I invite all of you to connect with them if you are from industry, if you are from academia, if you are from startups, to connect with these activities, to explore the options, to explore the possibilities, to explore the opportunities, and work with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sharma, for your support of the Global Cooling Prize and for sharing DST's unique approach to challenge the status quo to further the clean energy revolution through research and development and innovation. We will now hear about India's vision towards a low-carbon, energy-efficient economy by Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and Chairperson of Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. Professor Vijay Raghavan, please welcome to the stage.
Honorable Minister Dr. Harshvardhan, Dr. Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Renu Swarup, Dr. Ian Campbell, Dr. John Lufford, Mr. Anil Jain, and everyone here, all the dignitaries and attendees for this very important meeting. I'm extremely happy to be here on the occasion of the launch of this Global Cooling Prize, and this is a major innovation challenge program for clean energy for innovators all around the world. It's also a tremendous opportunity for global science and technology community to come together with an affordable solution to a challenge that affects people at the grassroots level, and for that matter, each and every person on the planet. Now, one important feature of this challenge is, as highlighted by several of the speakers, is the growth of room air conditioning and other methods of cooling. But what's happening as a response to global warming, as a response to an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, there are multiple new technologies which, such as solar, you've heard of solar power, solar photovoltaic, and solar thermal, other forms of energy, which make power accessible in a greener manner to people all over the planet who otherwise didn't have access to power. There's also been a revolution in power electronics, allowing this power to be used to drive motors in a manner which brings the possibility of growth of industry in areas which previously didn't have this access. It also brings huge opportunity to half the population of the world, women, who have been caught in the poorest sections of our peoples all over the world in drudgery, and potentially liberate them from drudgery and allow them to have access to employment, innovation, and starting their industries in a manner which was never before possible. But all of this requires the use of this newly available energy, and thermodynamics tells us that this energy means that you're going to generate heat, not just from cooling and air conditioning, but in whatever motors you drive, and that heat is going to end up warming the planet. But also the manufacturing of these sources, new technologies for new sources of energy requires factories which will again have both directly and indirectly an effect on global warming. So while we apply these new technologies to lift peoples all over the world out of poverty, we also need to address, in a manner which the Global Cooling Prize addresses very effectively, how does one deal with the heat which comes out from the use of current technologies, using power with current technologies or even new technologies, and effectively doesn't, as the scale of use increases, will have an impact on global warming. Now, the principal impacts of global warming are, of course, due to the kinds of fuel we use, shipping, use of airplanes, farming, and so on. And each of these need to be addressed with new technologies to reduce the impact on global warming in a manner similar to the Global Cooling Prize. And as we've seen with electric mobility, the overthrow of traditional technologies like the internal combustion engine has resulted in greater efficiencies and better use of power, which have less impact on global warming. And in a similar manner, as Ashutosh so nicely pointed out, we need to look at air conditioning to see how it can be revolutionized. Now, this prize is about principally air conditioning in the home context, but air conditioning in bigger building contexts also is a challenge which we need to address, because the volume of that air conditioning, the cooling required is huge, and the inefficiencies of those systems are very large, particularly in warm countries. As you can see, most hotels and conferences in places like India are excessively cooled in summer, and that's something, again, which needs to be addressed. So these are the major challenges which we need to address, and I'm really delighted that the Global Cooling Prize addresses this in the room air conditioning context. Now, the founding leaders of the mission innovation, including our Prime Minister, envisaged accelerating R&D to make clean energy affordable and accessible. And the objective of the mission innovation is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through global collaboration in about 23 countries so far. And India is one of the founding members, and we're very proud to be involved. And as Ashutosh said, our R&D thrust has gone on in a huge manner in the last few years. More recently, we have taken on multiple kinds of efforts to make sure that our R&D, the D end of the R&D, goes through the innovation pipeline into translation to have impacts on society. And that requires not just a coordination between all our science ministries and the line ministries and state governments and how to reach our people, but also requires a financial and economic assessment and make that viable by a variety of mechanisms, policy changes, subsidies, and so on, so that these new technologies can reach a larger number of people. And that precisely is the goal of the more recently appointed Prime Minister's Science, Technology, and Innovation Advisory Council, which is taking the already extraordinary collegiality and working together in multiple ministries. Minister Harshvardhan heads not only the Ministry of Science and Technology, but of Earth Sciences and of Environment and Forests. And he had last year initiated collaborative programs between all these ministries. Such programs are now scaling to multiple other ministries, and therefore you'll see a broader, effective translation of new technologies down the pipeline. Now, India has a good track record of providing effective, cost-effective socio-economic solutions to very large problems. And again, we should not, feel in any way hesitant on taking on these kinds of impossible tasks. These tasks look impossible until the time you actually embark on them, but the moment you embark on them, you work around and you find solutions in a manner which use cutting-edge technology to scale in a very effective way. And an example of that in completely different sectors are our vaccination programs, whether it's polio or other vaccinations. We took on huge challenges. The polio vaccine, again, was led by Minister Harshvardhan in Delhi some decades ago. And those programs started with extremely modest resources, but used innovation in a manner to make them effective. Similarly, the Green Revolution is another example. All of these now, in new kinds of challenges, will require refrigeration, will require cooling, will require vehicles which require cooling, and therefore the Global Cooling Prize, which addresses one component of this, will have enormous scalable impact in other areas and other technologies. And I think there's no doubt that these will have not only an impact in India, but will have a global impact. The world has no dearth of innovative individuals. This is principally a design problem and then a technological problem and an implementation problem. There are extraordinary individuals in India and all over the world who can work together to make sure that this problem is solved in record time. So this will certainly drive not only the technological solution, but I'm sure it will drive the potential commercialization of these kinds of technologies on a large scale. For that last bit to happen to scale, there is one critical aspect, which again, Mr. Jain from the Ministry of Environment and Forests pointed out, that, and Dr. Barve pointed out, is that we need policy changes which require effective use of these technologies as a requirement for them to scale. Those kinds of policy changes are something which will spur the commercialization of these technologies on large scale. So whether it is using new technologies to deal with pollution, both prevention, mitigation, and having technologies which can ameliorate pollution in different contexts, cooling, other aspects of global warming, electric mobility, policy changes are going to drive commercialization as new technologies become available. New technologies being available is a challenge we're put off now, and therefore we must also simultaneously concentrate on the policy end and push them so that they can enter into the market and into society in a big way. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Raghavan, for providing insights on how innovation can make clean energy affordable to everyone. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have all been waiting for has arrived. This moment has been 1.5 years in the making. It is time to officially launch the Global Cooling Prize, an international competition that looks to spur the development of a breakthrough cooling technology. May I request the Honorable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, to officially launch the application portal of the prize. and applicants will be able to register online to apply for the prize. It is now my privilege to welcome our chief guest, Honorable Union Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, to please deliver the inaugural address.
Well, friends, it's a very sad day for me and all my cabinet colleagues, including our Prime Minister and, of course, the people of India. Yesterday, just after midnight, we lost one of our very committed, sincere, dynamic cabinet colleague at a very early age, and I am grateful that this august audience paid tributes to his memory. On behalf of all of you, we once again pray to God so that his noble soul can rest in peace. And we, on behalf of this august gathering, convey our condolences to the bereaved family. Dear Professor Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, and Chairperson, Prime Minister's Science and Technology Innovation Advisory Council, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Dr. Renu Swarup, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Professor John Loggett, Chief Scientific Advisor, Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Government of United Kingdom, Shri Anil Kumar Jain, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Abhay Bakre, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Mr. Ian Campbell, Dr. Sanjay Vajpayee, representatives of the diplomatic missions and all the international organizations present here, distinguished experts, industrialists, innovators from India and abroad, and my dear friends from the media. Well, before I say something, you see, most of the things that I wanted to say, they have all been conveyed by my dear colleagues on the stage. But we have to express our gratitude, particularly to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, but for his great initiative and effort, and his dynamism and his visionary leadership that he provided to the whole world in 2016 at the Paris Summit. This world would not have seen this mission innovation movement. I say that because I have participated and headed all the mission innovation meetings till now. And all the representatives of the world have always acknowledged the initiative taken by our Prime Minister. In fact, this word mission innovation was coined and given to the whole world by him. And he is the one who has been helping and supporting and encouraging and leading this movement in the world from the front. So I thought it is the most appropriate moment to express our gratitude to him. I am extremely happy to be present here on the occasion of inauguration of the Global Cooling Innovation Summit, which is a unique event bringing together all the stakeholders to discuss how to provide cooling to all without warming the planet. This is a big challenge, and it would need concrete and collective actions to address this issue. India is one of the fastest growing economies of the world, and it has been acknowledged by all the relevant international organizations now for the last couple of years since Prime Minister Narendra Modi took over the leadership in India. And the growth leads to spiraling energy demand. Our government, under the dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, is committed to cleaner energy generation and its efficient utilization. The global perspective of Honorable Prime Minister is evident from his visionary statement urging the community of nations to aspire towards harnessing solar energy for all through the realization of vision of one world, one sun and one grid. We have set up an ambitious target of 175 gigawatts of renewable by 2022, which is adequately matched with the progress on ground now, and we hope that we may achieve it even much before 2022. We are proudly hosting International Solar Alliance, in which 70 countries out of the potential 121 countries have already joined. We have embarked upon world's largest clean cooking fuel program called the Ujjwala Yojana, releasing 57 million connections so far to poor women of this country. Saubhagya Yojana, which includes provision of solar power packs of 200 to 300 watts power for remote and inaccessible areas, will provide electricity to all households. Solar Steady Lamp scheme has already benefited 7 million students. In line with our commitments to utilize energy efficiently, we have developed plans to bring transformational changes to lower energy intensity and reduce energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. India has mounted the world's largest and most innovative, affordable, energy-efficient lighting program, 313 million LED lights, which have resulted in reduction of 32 million tons of carbon dioxide annually. Government of India has also launched an ambitious program to deploy energy-efficient chiller systems in India recently. The path of energy-powered growth is not possible without a sustained research, development and innovation endeavor, engaging scientists, researchers, industries and investors. We recognize that collaborative endeavors are an essential prerequisite to accelerate clean energy innovations. It was with this recognition and intent that our Prime Minister mooted the idea of global R&D platform and coined the term Mission Innovation. Mission Innovation is a unique platform of countries focusing on research, development and innovation partnership. These countries represent more than 80% of global R&D investments in clean energy. We are committed to provide opportunities and ecosystem to promote innovations in an accelerated manner. We have consciously encouraged bilateral and multilateral partnership and have also created policy framework conducive to private sector engagement. India is home to world's third largest startup ecosystem, with 3 to 4 new startups emerging every day, making it the fastest growing startup base in the world now. Indian government is aiming to foster entrepreneurship and promoting innovations by creating an ecosystem that is conducive to the growth of startups, especially in the areas of clean energy. Towards this endeavor, India has launched an international incubator for clean energy in public-private partnership at a total investment of around 5 million US dollars. This incubator will provide opportunities to mission innovators to test their technologies in the local market. India has made significant investment to develop future-ready, 100% renewable powered, smart, reliable and robust grid, and has made an investment of around 50 million US dollars to support national, bilateral and multilateral projects, forging partnerships with 10 mission innovation countries. This partnership has led to development of 3 joint clean energy centers. We have also opened up our select national clean energy programs for international participation through dedicated funding opportunity of 10 million US dollars. We have started 9 programs supporting technical innovations for universal energy access and to bring down the costs of renewable off-grids. The collective outcome of these projects could be a game changer and is expected to meet not only basic needs but also unleash new economic opportunities and services for improving the quality of life. Mission innovation required its participant countries to double their R&D investments in next 5 years. I am happy to share with you that India is quite close to doubling its R&D investments in clean energy over 2015 baseline. The R&D funding of my ministry has already surpassed this target, with more than 30% available for international collaborations, including mission innovation. While we co-lead 3 challenges, we play an active role in all the 8 innovation challenges, as we believe that the collective outcomes of these innovation challenges would make world a better and clean place to live. It is with this commitment that we have announced dedicated measures with committed funding for sustainable biofuels, carbon capture and sunlight innovation challenges. The increasingly hotter climates make it imperative for the governments to provide thermal comfort for health and well-being of its citizens. Moreover, this comfort has to be provided in an environmentally benign way. Balancing these objects is extremely delicate and challenging. In view of huge cooling demand likely to be generated, incremental improvements are not likely to yield desired results. It is in this context that scientific and technological community need to be challenged to rise up to the occasion by providing breakthrough disruptive innovations. Having led Indian delegation to all the mission innovation ministerials, I was quite keen to see that the innovation challenges set targets and take concrete action to deliver tangible outcomes. It was with this intent that I announced participation of Government of India in the Extreme Efficiency Cooling Prize in May 2018 at Malmo. I am happy to see concrete actions in such a short span. Global Cooling Prize is indeed a bold step which can potentially provide a robust set of research-led cooling solutions in next 2 years. The huge diversity, both geographically as well as demographically, has enabled India to develop several frugal innovations using various cleaner sources of energy in an efficient and cost-effective manner. We would be happy to leverage this experience for providing affordable and accessible cooling to communities deprived of thermal comfort. Another unique feature of Global Cooling Prize is that it presents pragmatic models for private sector engagement in clean energy research and development. This unique model takes into cognizance perspectives of both and ensures that they offer value to the engaging partners. Research and innovations, and especially cooling solution, can emerge only if the missionary researchers intensely engage themselves in mission innovation. We have to enroll large number of researchers, innovators, startups and industries in global cooling prize for having impactful public-private partnership for accelerated development and delivery of innovations. I am happy that the Global Cooling Prize is conscious of the need to scale up innovations rapidly and has developed structures to attract investments required so that developed innovations could be scaled up to make transformative impact. Our government would ensure that funding for clean energy innovations is further ramped up and an ecosystem of public-private partnership offering value to both in domain of clean energy is created. Well, I congratulate the architects of Global Cooling Prize and all its partners on conceptualizing and operationalizing this novel program and wish this Global Cooling Prize all the success in their laudable objectives. I urge the innovators to rise to this global challenge and develop a super efficient technology and mitigate the risk of global warming. Well, friends, I wanted to say something as Environment Minister also, because Vijay Raghavanji also just now told you that we, the scientists and the secretaries in the Ministry of Science and Technology and in the Ministry of Environment, we are now working in a very perfect coordinated manner to handle all these challenges. Most of the things from the environmental front have been said have been told to this audience by my additional secretary there, Mr. Jain. I am not going to repeat them, but I can only tell you that supplementing all this scientific activity, innovation, research, and all these methods to strengthen the development of new strategies to handle all these global challenges, we have supplemented it with the development of a huge societal movement, which we call as the Green Good Deeds movement, whereby we have compiled a list of almost 700 green good deeds, which are small positive actions that everyone in this society as an individual or as a group or as an institution or as a, you can say, organized sector can perform in his or her day-to-day life, can develop small movements around those green good deeds, and certainly many of those green good deeds, they actually are related to these cooling actions, which certainly we would certainly ensure the strengthening of the cooling strategies, not only with the help of super efficient air conditioners, but also by altering the habits of the individuals. So we have to support and supplement all this scientific activity. We have a huge societal movement in India growing, called the Green Good Deeds movement, where we are asking people to perform a green good deed. For performing a green good deed, you only need to change your behavior to a green good behavior. And we are making people realize that this is your green social responsibility for the Mother Earth. And I am happy to inform you that the United Nations Environment Programme and also the BRICS nations, they have all been very receptive and positive to the Green Good Deeds movement in India. And I'm sure that with great people like you all putting their heart and soul into this new mission innovation movement for clean energy and for now the Global Cooling Prize, the day is not very far off when we should see certainly very positive, measurable and perceptible outcomes. With these few words, I wish success to this meeting, and I'm sure God is going to bless us for this Mother Earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the support of the Global Cooling Prize and for your leadership on solving the global cooling challenge. Innovators across the globe will heed your call to action and apply for the prize. Your message has amplified awareness of this important issue and helped establish India's commitment to a low-carbon future where we can provide people across the globe and in India access to cooling without warming the planet. We have one final request of our dignitaries. May we please request the Honorable Minister, Professor Raghavan, and all our esteemed guests on the dais to launch the Indian dossier on the 5 times cooling solution, which highlights why India and the world needs a breakthrough in comfort cooling technology.
Thank you, everyone. What an exciting and momentous day for India and the world. I would like to take this opportunity to play a special video message from Sir Richard Branson, founder, Virgin Group, who is an innovator himself and a global ambassador for the Global Cooling Prize. He recorded this video especially for this event.
Hi everybody, thank you very much for inviting me to the launch of the Global Cooling Prize. I'm sure many of us experienced a very, very hot summer this year. Well, the planet is certainly getting hotter, and we've been saying this for 20 years now. So if we're going to live and work in these temperatures, air conditioning needs to become accessible for all. It should not be a luxury, as it is today. And in less than 20 years, millions more people in India, China, Indonesia, Brazil, Africa and other places will have a need to buy air conditioning units. So if we carry on using the same outdated air conditioning technology, the temperature of the planet will rise by 0.5 degrees for air conditioning use alone. But with every challenge, there is an opportunity, and that's why I'm excited by the Global Cooling Challenge. There are millions of bright minds that I believe will bring about a solution to our cooling challenge. The search for innovation, search for profit, and the search for saving the planet are not mutually exclusive. Like the auto and solar industry, we will see new innovation and new jobs coming from the cooling challenge. So, today I'm inviting entrepreneurs and companies from around the world to take up the challenge. Let the Global Cooling Prize begin. Cheers. And good luck, and I hope you win it.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Dr. J.B.V. Reddy, Scientist, Program Officer, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, to please deliver the vote of thanks. Dr. Reddy.
It is a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on this unique event. I am deeply grateful to our Honorable Union Minister for inaugurating the summit and launching the Global Cooling Prize. Sir, your presence here has positioned this event and prize on high pedestal globally and has boosted morale of entire GCP team and potential participants. I am also thankful to Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Chairperson, Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council for his visionary address sharing global perspective. Sir, your presence demonstrates Government of India commitment to innovations and is a great source of encouragement for all of us. I am greatly indebted to Professor Ashutosh Sharma Sir, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, for his unstinted support and encouragement to clean energy R&D, which has grown several folds under his stewardship. I am extremely grateful to Dr. Renu Swarup Madam, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, for shaping India's mission innovation participation and proactively encouraging interministerial collaborative endeavor. I express my special thanks to Professor John Loafhead, Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Government of UK, for conveying wholeheartedly support of mission innovation leadership for this endeavor. I am very grateful to Sri Anil Kumar Jain sir, Additional Secretary, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, for his encouragement to this initiative and prioritizing participation in this event over his other pressing commitments. I express my deep thanks to Sri Avik Bakreji, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Minister of Power, Government of India, for his valuable guidance and support on key aspects. We count on support of both of you, sir, for success of our endeavors. My sincere thanks to our friends from media who have been kind to cover this event and spread the positive message emanating from it. I would like to thank members of Technical Review Committee, ISHRE, Shakti Foundation, and colleagues from TIFAC, Vigyan Prasar, and NIC for their continued support in this endeavor. I extend my profound thanks to the distinguished participants from diverse fields for their esteemed presence. The success of the event and also Global Cooling Prize hinges on your enthusiastic participation. I would also like to convey my sincere thanks to Mr. Ian Campbell and Dr. Radhika and their team from Rocky Mountain Institute, Dr. Paul Bunje and his team from Conservation X Labs, Dr. Satish Kumar and Ms. Sudha and their team from AEEE, Professor Rajan Rawal and his team from CEPT University for their planning, organizational and institutional support. I owe special gratitude to Dr. Sanjay Vajpayee sir and all my colleagues who strived really hard to make this event a success. Once again, I thank you all for your enthusiastic participation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Honorable Minister and esteemed dignitaries, thank you for launching the Global Cooling Prize today and sharing your valuable remarks with the audience. I request all of you in the audience to please stay seated till the Honorable Minister and esteemed dignitaries leave the stage. To our friends from the media, we will not be having a separate press conference with the minister. However, the press conference with other dignitaries will be held in the press lounge outside of this auditorium. We will now be breaking for lunch. We will see you at Kamal Mahal for the next session at 1:30 p.m. Again, really grateful for all of you to be here today. Thank you. May I request all our friends from media to please join us in the press briefing room adjacent to the hall. We are beginning with the press briefing right now.
Trees and so on and so forth. Good afternoon, I'm Paul Bungie. I am the co-founder and chief operating officer at Conservation X Labs. We're a company that brings innovation and technology to global environmental threats in order to reduce the threat to extinction and climate change and related challenges.
So I'd like to open the floor up to journalists who would like to ask any questions. Who would like to go first? Yeah.
मिस्टर भाकरे, सर आपसे एक सवाल है कि जिस तरह से एयर कंडीशनर की डिमांड बढ़ती जा रही है, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग में बहुत बड़ा रोल है क्लाइमेट चेंज में, तो ये टेक्नोलॉजी किस तरह से काम करेगी? ग्लोबल कूलिंग प्राइस क्या है टेक्नोलॉजी, पूरा ब्रीफ करके बताएं।
बहुत अच्छा सवाल किया आपने। जहाँ तक टेक्नोलॉजी का सवाल है, ये टेक्नोलॉजी तो इनोवेटर और डेवलपर के लिए छोड़ दी गई है। बेसिकली द टेक्नोलॉजी वी आर seeking application is open to any kind of thing. The current the air conditioning mostly works on a vapor compression system, but there are many other options like evaporative cooling, vapor absorption system, any other scientific process which leads to kind of a cooling effect. But this cooling challenge is basically to come out with a technology and by using non-ODS जो ओजोन डिप्लेशन सब्सटेंस है, उस तरह की गैस को यूज करके we need to come out and the scientists and the developer and the innovators will come out with a technology which we expect will be a revolutionary kind of a almost 4 to 5 times more than the current technology which is being used. तो ये 4 से 5 गुना ज़्यादा एयर कंडीशनिंग होगा. If I give an example of something, a typical example, I think that's 1.5 ton रूम एयर कंडीशनर सभी लोग जानते हैं जो हमारे घर में वी यूज इट एट अवर हाउस. इट स्टार्टेड विद समवेयर द 2.2 किलोवाट वाज द लोड रिक्वायर्ड. स्लोली इट केम टू समवेयर अराउंड 1.6 kilowatt of the load for a 1.5 ton air conditioners. Now the more efficient like 4-star, 5-star, as I told about the sir, welcome sir. I think we'll just shift it, sir. So as you said that the criteria was 700 watt, so 0.7 kilowatt is the criteria which has been given. So you can imagine the transformation from somewhere around 2.2 2.4 kilowatt coming down. Now this is the 700 watt which has come down. So the new technology will be very, very efficient, as the criteria is about 5 times efficient, and that will have a huge impact on the energy consumption by the consumer. And as in one of the speaker has mentioned very clearly, the consumer has to go not only for the initial price but on the life cycle cost. So even if a consumer is paying 10,000 or 15,000 rupees extra, he will get his return within next 1 year or 2 years, depending on his usage. So the life cycle cost means if the consumer is calculating his overall expense, the initial cost as well as the electricity bill for next 2 years, definitely the super air conditioners or the highest energy efficient air conditioners will be beneficial. And there was an example also given for the benefit. So on a long way, it will be a great help not only for the consumer but also for the country in reducing the overall demand as well as the overall energy consumption in the country, and also it will lead to the reduction in GHG emissions. I hope that satisfied. Thank you.
My question is with Ann Campbell. As you written, you are doing the same 5.5 billion in your area, and you are the fastest growing company. How you will compete the prices and your TRP in India in the globalization is concerned in the cooling prices? Which you suggest will be the most appropriate as compared to the other competitors you are having in India?
I'm sorry, could you just say the end piece of that question?
What will be your TRP in India as compared to other competitors and your other pricing?
They are not a company.
No.
They don't have any competition here.
We're a research institute. I used to work for an air conditioning company, and I spent 30 years.
Doing this 5.5 billion. What will be the next target?
I'm sorry, what's the 5
What
point?
will be your next target of the company?
So,
You are the fastest among the cooling companies.
no, we're not a, no, we're a research institute. We're a small research institute that does work just in the energy space, and our focus is on transitioning to a clean energy future and supporting governments and organizations that look to drive that. My background was I was running a large part of an air conditioning company for many years, but now I work for this research institute. We're a non-profit organization and we're focused on our mission, which is a transition to a clean energy future. And part of transitioning to a clean energy future is to reduce the amount of consumption of energy of major appliances, and air conditioning is one of them.
How your research will be contributing in the global warming?
So the contribution, we've set the target for the prize that there has to be a solution that uses 5 times or has 5 times less climate impact than the baseline units today. A solution like that is then deployed globally would actually reduce global warming by about 0.5 degree centigrade by 2100. So it has a huge impact. Cooling is a huge driver of global warming.
Thank you.
I think that we just have a little bit more explanation about the actual prize and what India stands to gain from it. I think that would be nice because I don't have all the press for the woman who did the presentation earlier.
Okay. Yeah, so the prize that was launched today is related to room air conditioners. We've basically said the average unit that's being sold in the market today, as Mr. Bakra mentioned, was a 1.5 ton room air conditioner. We've understand the climate impact associated with that average unit, and the climate impact is driven by the refrigerant and the global warming potential associated with the refrigerant that the equipment uses, and it's also impacted by the electricity the equipment uses in its lifetime. The competition is to say that we're looking for a solution that has 5 times less climate impact. So that to achieve that, it needs to be largely a reduction in electricity consumption, but it's also an opportunity to get benefit from a reduction in the potency of refrigerants that are actually used within the equipment. The other headline criteria is that at assessed industrial scale, the technology can't be more than twice the cost of today's technology. And again, as Mr. Bakra was saying, a unit that costs twice as much but it's 5 times less climate impact, use dramatically less electricity, and it would be a simple payback for a consumer in that 3 to 4 year range. The other reason why we've allowed a higher affordability level is today's vapor compression technology has been cost optimized for the last 40 years. A new technology needs to have the opportunity to be cost optimized and get on the learning curve. So the way the prize will work is we have asked, starting today, for applications from innovators, from air conditioning companies, from manufacturers, from universities, from startups, around to describe a technology and how it can meet that criteria. The technical review committee, which has probably about 300 years of experience in the air conditioning sector and industry, will review and assess those applications and pick 10 that have the greatest promise and provide each an award of $200,000 US to be able to develop a prototype unit that can be tested. Following test, we'll identify the technology that has the greatest promise, and that technology application will receive a $1 million award, but obviously the benefits associated with winning a global cooling prize and the opportunity to scale, not just here in India, but in the global markets. So that's an outline of what the global cooling prize is and the structure that it would follow and what the awards are. The final award would be made in November 2020, and that will be our next major event at the I guess the second Global Cooling Innovation Summit that we will hold will be in November 2020 when we announce the winner of the award.
Will it be in India, the next cooling summit?
Oh yes. Yeah, and all of the testing will be undertaken here within India, so the test protocols. We're going to have some real-world testing, which is going to be done in contiguous apartment buildings, so that we don't have a technology bias, which you can sometimes have with a laboratory that's been developed to test specific applications. And we'll be opening that up to the media to be able to see different technologies in operation and see how much energy they're consuming to be able to maintain a temperature and humidity within the apartment environment. And then we'll also be doing lab testing here in India at CEPT University's facility to be able to correlate against the real world testing before we do final adjudication. But all of that test environment and the award itself will be done in India. And one of the reasons we're doing it in India, there's going to be more air conditioners sold in India than any other country in the world over the next 3 decades.
And one thing I would like to add is that over the next 7-8 months, there will be a lot of recruitment of companies and startups and R&D centers who would be able to participate in this prize. So that's, I think, from this launch, we will be working on that. AEEE, which is also an industry association and policy and research think tank, would actually be working with our members and with our board and others to get as many companies to participate in this effort. And while the prize is global, but we also expect a lot of Indian companies to participate in this prize over the next year, then get shortlisted and finally an eventual winner.
What will be the criteria to select the winner?
Yeah, so there's 2 primary criteria, but then we also have secondary criteria. The 2 primary criteria, the first is that the technology has 5 times less climate impact than the technology being sold in the market today. That means it has to use at least 4 times less electricity to operate and maintain temperature and humidity within the space. And then the second criteria is it can't cost more than twice the first cost of the baseline units being sold in the market today. There's other criteria about water consumption of a unit, about ability to be simply installed in an existing building, about the specific materials being used and not allowing rare earth materials and other. What we want to safeguard is that we don't solve for energy and climate and through unintended consequences have other environmental impacts as a result. So the other constraints are to prevent other negative environmental impacts associated with the new technology. So in other words, we can't use a technology that would use 200 litres of water a day to provide cooling, because that is an inappropriate use of water as a resource. And so 2 headline criteria, but a number of supporting ones to ensure no unintended consequences. So hopefully that helps. Yes. Yeah, we invite you to apply if you and fill out an application and test the website for us.
Hi, I have 2 questions. One is, is there a cutoff date or a target date to commercialize this prototype, which you would select by November 2020? Like it should be in the markets in 6 months of being awarded or something of that sort. That's one. And the second is, does it entail manufacturing in India clause? Or can the technology be also imported, or the product can be imported?
Yeah, so obviously it's a global cooling prize. It would be difficult to do a global cooling prize and stipulate that it can only be manufactured within one country. But as I said, one of the reasons that there's a number of reasons why we felt that India was the right place to do it. One was just the foresight and awareness of the Indian government of the cooling challenge and the problems and challenges that entails. Around the world, we found that there was the greatest awareness here. And so if you're going to be running a prize like this, you want to do it where there's a potentially supportive policy and regulatory environment. The other reason is that this is going to be the largest market for air conditioning over the next 3 decades. So any manufacturers that have aspirations in the air conditioning industry will have to manufacture here, because they can't compete if they don't. So we haven't been explicit about those things, but I think implicitly it's going to happen in India.
And the target date to commercialize the product?
So the target date that we've identified is 3 years for full commercialization after prize award. I guess we don't know what we're going to do if that doesn't happen. So that's something that we still need to work through, and there's some things that we're thinking about from an IP perspective. But that's our expectation, is that there'd be enough market signals to enable commercialization to take place, and that would naturally start to cycle up.
One additional comment on that, Ian, if you don't mind. A prize enters, in this case, when there are failures in the market. And as was described, existing industrial production and sale is not innovating at this point. And so this is a mechanism by which to intentionally disrupt that marketplace. There's a reward for it, of course, the $3 million that Ian was describing in total. But in reality, it is this market opportunity, and anyone who competes from anywhere in the world has an opportunity to reach commercialization in advance if they can. So in many respects, it's a race to own a much larger market, as was described, with these efficient technologies in future. And we would encourage those who compete, as well as those jurisdictions or countries that are interested in owning a large share of that future market, to put resources behind doing precisely that and supporting these innovators and the potential commercial opportunities through subsidies, policies, and the like that could help ensure that those new companies or those new approaches, those new technologies are built and sold in places where you might like to see them done so.
I think I'll just, on the first question, I'll just say that because Government of India is involved in a major way as a supporter of this mission, under the Mission Innovation Initiative and DST's leadership along with other ministries, the hope is definitely there that there will be a significant number of Indian companies who will be participating, and not only participating but coming up with the innovation. So to your question, whether I think there will be manufacturing that will be done, there has been discussions that has taken place in terms of what that would entail and what kind of, I think, IP related issues, as Ian also mentioned. So clearly, I mean, the whole point of positioning this in India is to actually attract a lot of Indian innovators and companies to participate in the prize.
This question is for Professor John Love. I just want to know what are the measures taken so far from UK side? Please elaborate on this.
Sorry, what are the major steps taken from?
Taken regarding this global cooling, especially how to.
So under Mission Innovation, the Global Cooling Challenge is led by the European Commission, the United Arab Emirates and the UK. And what we've been seeking to do is to clarify exactly what the challenges and barriers currently are, so as to articulate for the research communities what the tasks are. The
prize, which has come through from the government of India, has essentially summarised those challenges and offered a direct incentive for people to move out of business as usual to actually address these. Now, there is at the moment a lot of research work going on that might provide some of the underlying technologies that could have this solution. As I mentioned earlier, the industry at the moment evolves vapor compression cycles. They do that to meet the current market needs, which don't really look at overall lifetime efficiency, they look at first cost. And so when we look to the future, the purpose of the mission innovation activity was work out how can we inspire the research and innovation community to look at genuinely transformational new approaches to refrigeration. So to answer your question, this is trying to build upon decades of basic research into materials, thermodynamics, control, sensors, and many other things to innovate solutions that we have not yet identified. And the purpose of this has been to put that down in a very clear statement of need that will hopefully inspire some of those people with ideas. What's going to happen? We're trying to actually bring out from the innovation community what has been thought about and may have been thought not possible to undertake using the current industrial and development systems. So it's not quite answered your question, but I think it's important to remember what the driving philosophy is behind this. It is to seek transformational solutions that will deliver the function in a totally different way in terms of its performance and therefore global environmental impact. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Yes, you could say we're trying to initiate the turbo boost.
And to reduce the global warming, apart from cooling agent you were talking about, ACs and all, there are many other areas also need to be taken care. So if you can please let us know, is there any other way out?
So there are, within Mission Innovation, there are 8 innovation challenges, one of which is to do with heating and cooling. The others are looking at transformational materials, they're looking at other technologies. In fact, rather than use my memory, just let me give you the list, which you can find on the Mission Innovation website, together with the participants. But in order, the different challenges are, first of all, smart energy grids. The second is off-grid access to electricity. The third is carbon capture innovation, carbon capture and storage. The fourth is sustainable biofuels and how they can be brought in. The fifth is the conversion of energy from the sun into more usable forms more effectively. So this ranges from the direct production of fuels from sunlight through to the creation of electricity from sunlight. The sixth is clean energy materials, which is a vast area of enabling research, and Mexico and the United States have produced an extremely valuable analysis of where the needs are there, which is now driving research activity. The seventh is affordable heating and cooling of buildings. That's the one that this prize relates to. And then finally, the eighth, which has only recently been adopted, is hydrogen as a future zero carbon energy vector. That is a means of translating energy, and that relates to many of the other challenges. This is the program that was adopted almost 2 years ago. And there has been, therefore, a lot of individual activity driven by this, and we're just starting to see the outcome of research results which are being published through the normal routes.
Are you doing something on solar cooling globally?
On solar cooling, well, solar cooling, I think, is one of the areas that we would hope this prize might initiate, solar cooling specifically. And I think that's why we need to be clear to the innovation community that all possible approaches and technologies are open here. We're looking for the best ideas and the best novel approaches, and that's why the prize is being offered, to incentivize that.
Do you have any more questions? Because I'd like to be mindful that none of the press has eaten and none of the panelists have eaten. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
थोड़ा आराम से केबल